I recognize myself for the purposes of making an opening statement. But before I do that, just a little bit of house cleaning. I'm going to ask that Congresswoman Beth Van Dyne and Congressman Scott Perry be allowed to sit in here. And they both expressed an interest in showing up, and of course, the more the merrier. Okay, now welcome to the Subcommittee on Healthcare and Financial Services. Today's hearing will focus on the destructive diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI policies that radical Democrats have tried to insert in American institutions, and really going back a little bit more than that, all the way back to affirmative action and the executive order put into place by President Johnson in 1965. I think it's important we all understand the effect and the scope of these policies have had on American life the last 60 years. On September 24th, 1965, we got to remember to celebrate that anniversary. Almost 60 years ago, Lyndon Johnson signed Executive Order 11246, which mandated affirmative action programs and policies which facilitated discrimination. In 1965, minority groups had faced a generation of despicable and repugnant discrimination, though I know individual universities were already practicing affirmative action 10 years before that. I know Princeton was practicing it in 1955. At the time, these nation DEI policies were nobly aimed at reversing that harm. Unfortunately, even well-intentioned bad policy is still bad policy. Discrimination should never be fought with more discrimination. That is exactly what affirmative action and DEI policies have done over the last 60 years. These policies have infiltrated nearly every type of institution in America, including higher education, corporate workplaces, the military, and more. In my opinion, it really hasn't been gradual over the last 60 years. I think if you look back even in the 1970s, the 1960s, these policies were around. These policies divide Americans by putting them all in groups and educating people that they should not view themselves as an individual, they should view themselves as a group, which is why I think people who want to destroy America are so in favor of them. Categories, I might add, these arbitrary categories, are entirely self-reported rather than focusing on the whole of somebody's circumstances. DEI assumes that anyone who checks a box for a certain race is disadvantaged. Of course, we don't want to be a society where we go back and try to give preferences based on other factors as well. On President Biden's first day in office, he signed an executive order to promote DEI in federal employment. This order went further than any before it by expanding racial divisions, including immigrants. Thankfully, President Trump rescinded this executive order and decades of executive orders that preceded it. Let's be clear about what DEI is. It's a deliberate and explicit choice to put ideology over excellence, to deny admission of highly qualified students, to accept students with lower scores, to fill in the box right is un-American and, like I said, encourages divisiveness. This is to award government contracts to minority-owned companies over companies with better bids. This is spelled out plainly in the E of DEI. Equity means ensuring equal. Under DEI, equity means ensuring equal outcomes. I think it's beyond Marxism, though. You're trying to destroy America by doing to America what they do in other countries in trying to set one ethnic group against another ethnic group. You know, you think of Canada, the French against the English. You think of Middle Eastern countries, the Shiites against the Sunnis, what have you. That is what they're trying to do in this country. Fortunately, despite the Democrats' best efforts, the courts have been opposed to this sort of thing. The Civil Rights Act protects everyone. Earlier this month, the Supreme Court rejected a lower court's requirement that members of majority groups must meet a certain higher standard to win discrimination cases against their employers. By the way, the case was unanimously decided. Even Justice Jackson authored the majority opinion. In 2023, the Supreme Court ended race-based admission programs at colleges and universities, finding that that considering race as a factor in admissions violated the 14th Amendment of the Equal Protection Clause and Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. The Trump administration has launched a wide-reaching effort to eliminate DEI, including revoking LBJ's 1965 executive order. These steps are critical, but there's more work to be done. Above all, we have to educate the American public what's been going on in this country the last 60 years. Hopefully, the hearing will provide us with an opportunity to discuss this important topic and consider possible reforms to fortify American meritocracy and excellence, and above all, have reforms that do not continue with this policy of what I believe is intentionally trying to set one group of Americans against another. I yield to my ranking member, Krista Morthy, for his opening statement.